For more than 1,000 years, island sons proved their strength not in gyms, but on village greens, lifting stones older than memory to mark their passage into adulthood. These stones held more than weight, they held meaning. But over time, through colonisation, famine, and forgetfulness, the rituals faded, the stones lay buried. Then came one man who asked not just, can I lift it, but why did we ever stop? David Keohan isn't just reviving a tradition, he's helping a country remember it. I'm Sam Penny, and this is Why Do You Think You Could Do That? David, welcome to the show.
Sam, delighted to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
This whole story, I first came across this. I'm on the Sunshine Coast in Australia, and one of my colleagues one day was scrolling through Instagram and he came across this video of this man in Ireland lifting stones, and he said, Sam, check this out. And his name's Ben, and he's, check this out. You know, how cool is this? And I thought, damn, that is super cool what you're doing with these lifting stones. And it's amazing that a man in Ireland is having influence right around the world. This is going to be a cool story, David.
Man, it's but to think that it's gone that viral and that worldwide in a very, very short space of time. I mean, really, it's only been 4 years, that I've started looking for these at all. I think kind of COVID sparked the whole thing off through the culture of boredom that was here through COVID. We couldn't do anything. So it was a matter of just going looking for doing something. But to see that it's traveled that far, that quickly, it's kind of mind blowing. I mean, sometimes I have to sit back and wonder, how has it become so big so quick? But I've thought about this a lot, Sam. I suppose we delve into podcast, but I think there was such a yearning for a reclamation of a culture. And I think COVID made a lot of us kind of sit back and kind of wonder why we were doing anything, especially here. We were sitting down and we couldn't go outside 2 kilometers of our house. And we were like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Why was I doing this job? Or I was working 2 jobs at the time. Why am I working 2 jobs for? You kind of got to think of why you were doing things. And then that kind of led you down the path of a little bit of self, I suppose, rediscovery. And through that, I suppose, kind of wondering why you're doing something. Then you're kind of looking at your own culture and kind of figuring that out. So it's been such an amazing journey, man. It's been a total reclamation of culture and of self and of identity over the past couple of years. And to be able to share that now with people.
So, David, I think before we jump into the lifting stones, I want to go quite a way back. So what did strength, before your lifting stones, what did strength actually mean to you?
Man, all the way through my 20s, I was just into music and art, I was someone who loved, I still play music all the time. I play in bands. But I was in no way in anything to do with strength or sport, pretty much my whole life until I hit about 32. So when I got to the age of 32, at that stage, I had 2 young children and my health was really bad. I was overweight. I was obese. I could barely walk up the stairs. I was in a bad place, very bad place mentally, physically, physically bad, but also that affects your health, affects your mental health. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't run after my kids. So one day I saw myself in the mirror and I was like, that's it. Fuck this. You're only in your early 30s. You have to do something. You know what I mean? So I went to the doctor and I just said, look, I need to get a bit of help. Doctor gave me all this medication. He said, look, you need to take this asthma inhaler. You need to take blood pressure tablets. You need to take X, Y, and Z. Gave me a tray of medication and said, here you are for the rest of your life. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm too young to be on that kind of stuff. So I bought myself a pair of runners, a pair of trainers the next day and some gym gear. And I went out running and made it 100 yards to the top of my estate. I had to turn around and come home because I was so unfit. I thought I had asthma. I didn't have asthma. I was just really fucking unfit. And but really bad. Oh, man. I thought I had asthma. I was like, no, I'd never done any exercise in my life. But I went out in the morning, Sam, every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning before work. And that 1 kilometer turned to 5 kilometers. That 5 kilometers turned to 10 kilometers. You're losing weight. You're feeling better. You're eating healthier. And all of a sudden, the blood pressure is gone. The blood pressure is down to normal level. Your asthma is gone. It wasn't asthma. You were just really unfit. And you're just in a really, really good place mentally and physically, So I started off just doing running. I suppose to stop myself being on all this medication. And from there, then I booked my first marathon. I think it was about 12 months later, I ran my first marathon. I ran about 6 half marathons after that. And
wow.
Yeah, and I just got into the run and really enjoyed it. And I was down to nothing. I was down to like, what was it, about 12 stone weight, whatever that is in pounds. But I was down to about 12 stone weight. It was like really, really light. I didn't have much strength. I was just doing a lot of running. So from a chance encounter then in work, I met a guy who had a gym, a kettlebell gym. And he was like, he gave me a really cool t-shirt with a kettlebell logo on it. And I was like, what's that? He said, it's a kettlebell. And I said, don't know what that is. He said, do you want to come out and have a try of it? I do classes. So I then started doing kettlebell classes. And within 6 months, starting to feel stronger. And I saw that there was a kettlebell sport gym attached to this place too. So I was like, what's kettlebell sport? But he said, it's lifting 2 kettlebells for time, clean and jerk. I was like, that sounds interesting. I have an endurance background from running. Let's see, can I do some of this? So I got into kettlebell sport and got absolutely fucking obsessed with it. Went out to the gym 4 nights a week, trained my ass off, got absolutely fascinated with the minutiae of the sport, really got into the actual depths of it, ended up making the Irish team 2 years later and won the European Championships in 2014, which was absolutely amazing. In Russia, in the home of kettlebell sport, in St. Petersburg. So it was like, and I came 4th that year in the world. So I was like, oh shit, I'm actually quite good at this. You know what I mean? I didn't think, because there's nobody really does it in Ireland, there was a small enough a niche sport. So like, you're just chugging away at home and you think, I'm doing okay. I got decent numbers. But then you get to the Europeans in the world, you're like, shit, I got decent numbers, I can put it up against the kind of the best that's out there. Now this is on the amateur division. But then from there, the next year was like, okay, I came 4th in the world. I think I could fucking get a medal in this. So the Worlds the next year was in Dublin in Ireland. So I was like, I'm going to train my ass off for this. So trained like an absolute demon for 12 months. Was running 40 to 60K a week, training 5 nights a week in the gym. And I ended up winning the Worlds in 2015 in Ireland, in Dublin. First place, world champion. And to think like 4 years or 3 or 4 years before that, I couldn't run 100 yards or could barely walk up my stairs, just goes to show you what you could do. You put your mind to something.
David, what was the real spark that motivated you to keep turning up every single day? What was that real driving passion? Was it your kids? Was it you just sort of seeing change and feeling change in yourself? What was it? Why did you just keep going?
I fell in love with, I think I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with the training. I absolutely loved the training. I loved how I felt after it. I loved how I felt. I loved the way my body felt. I loved how fit I was getting. I was never fit. I never knew what being fit was like. I never knew what I felt like to feel good. You know what I mean? I felt bad my whole life, but I never knew because I was just used to it. So then you're like, this is what feeling good feels like. Fuck, I like this, And I'm after making the Irish team. I'm representing my country in a sport. I'm standing up with the green jersey on me, and I'm representing my country. In foreign lands. I travel all over the world with this. So there was a huge pride to that as well. There was a massive amount of pride to that for my family, for myself, all my extended family. Everyone was so proud, you're doing so well. We're so proud of you. And that makes you feel good too. You're doing something good. And then of course, like I was competing really well. I never really enjoyed competing. I loved the training and I loved the process, but I never really enjoyed competing. Turns out I was actually really good at competing. But I never really enjoyed it. It wasn't what gave me I wasn't all about the medals. It was like, I just love representing my country. Turns out I was actually pretty damn good at it and like won a couple of world championships, European championships and traveled, like I said, traveled the world with it. But it was just that, I think it was the pride of representing Ireland and the pride of your family was a lovely thing to have.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll tell you what, when I turn up to the gym, the kettlebell is my enemy. So kudos to you. I don't know. I did not know kettlebell was a sport, and I can't think of a tougher sport considering my mental anguish when I turn up and I see those things sitting on the ground. Now,
yeah, think about it, 224 for amateur.
Unbelievable.
Crazy.
Now, all of my guests have done something absolutely remarkable. They've got heaps of world records, they're world champions, they've climbed every peak over 8,000 meters. They've skied to the South Pole, all these kinds of things. Here I am with kettlebell world champion. However, that's not what we're really talking about today, because I think that what you have moved into post kettlebell world champion is something far greater and far more amazing. So firstly, how did the pandemic really opened something ancient for you. It really opened a door that was quite unexpected.
Oh, I mean, I think it opened the door for a lot of people, but like I was saying at the start there, we were within a 2K lockdown, so everything was shut down. So like I was competing and training in the gym, I was training in the gym 4 or 5 nights a week, and all of a sudden it's taken away from me, Sam. So like, what am I going to do now? Training is part of my life. It's my mental health. It keeps me right. It keeps me on an even keel. I'm happy when I'm training. I have no equipment, because all my equipment was in the gym. I didn't need to have equipment. I went to the gym all the time. So all I had out of the back garden was 3 stones, two of which were stone carvings by my wife. So I just started picking those up as just using them as weights, because I was like, I need to do something, do some resistance training. I'm cracking up here. Sitting down watching TV isn't my thing. I need to be doing something. So I just started picking up these stones in the backyard, and I fell in love with the actual process, the physicality of the lifting of these stones. There's something very primal about this. I'm out the back garden. I'm out in all the weathers. You know what I mean? I'm outside. I'm lifting stone. I feel connected to something greater than me. I love the feeling that this feels great. And then as I'm doing that, friends of mine online, because we're all connected online, and friends of mine online is like, Davey, I'm digging up the back garden here at Chukova just to do something. Or I'm building a wall. I have a couple of spare rocks. Do you want them? So all of a sudden there's lads rocking up in vans and just throwing stones into my back garden. And I'm using these just as training, So that was how it started. Then because of that, I got aware of Rogue Fitness made 3 unbelievable documentaries on stone lifting. One on stone lifting in the Basque region in Spain, one on stone lifting in Iceland, and one on stone lifting in Scotland. And it was about the actual culture behind the lifting of stone. It wasn't just man pick up rock, there was a whole cultural attachment to these things. Like the Scottish ones were the manhood stones, the Clochwyd Fir. They were the manhood stones. So like to become a man from a boy, the rite of passage of becoming a man, you had to lift this stone up onto a plinth or pick it up to your chest. And I just thought this was absolutely incredible. I was like, there's a culture attached to this. There's a whole depth attached to this. You become a man when you lift these stones, all of a sudden you can marry, you can own land. I just thought this was amazing. I was like, but the one that blew my fucking mind wide open was the Fianna Stone in Scotland. So as an Irishman, I was raised on stories of Fionn McCool and the Fianna, I mean, he's to us like what Achilles is, or you know what I mean, is to the Greeks. He's the warrior elite. He's an absolutely amazing mythological figure. And his tribe was the Fianna tribe. So in Scotland, there's a Fianna Stone that through mythology and through folklore, that it to become a member of the Fianna, you had to lift this stone, So I was like, you fucking telling me that there's a Fianna Stone attached to Fionn McCool that you can pick up that's sitting in a fucking field in Glenlyon in Scotland, and I can go and pick this thing up? Like I've said this before, but it's like telling the fucking Norseman that Thor's hammer sitting out in the field in Trondheim, go pick it up. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, why you fucking... I was so like, I have to go see this. So I hop into a camper van between my mates and say, we're going to Scotland in 3 weeks' time. Like, what? I don't give a fuck. I'll tell you on the way. So we end up going to Scotland in the camper van, lifting a load of these manhood stones and leaving the Fianna Stone until last. Got to the Fianna Stone and got to put my hands on that and lift that. And it was probably one of the most spiritual moments of my life. It was absolutely unbelievable. It's 127 kilos of dolerite, but you think that this stone possibly could have been lifted for 1,000 years. There have had tens and tens of thousands of men have put their hands on this particular fucking stone to become a member of this mythological clan that you've been reading about since I've been told about since you were a kid. So that to me was an unbelievable moment. And that was the catalyst then for me to start looking for the culture in Ireland, because the culture in Ireland hadn't been discovered. We didn't even know if there was a culture of stone lifting in Ireland. We knew there's a very, very alive and prevalent one in Scotland. And we're very much like the same Celtic root. It was like, it'd be more unusual if there wasn't something here. So that started me looking for the ones in Ireland then.
With lifting the Fianna Stone, was it a sense of a connection to the thousands of people of the past, or was it a great sense of the strength and that feeling that you are now part of the tribe, so to speak?
It was a bit of both. To me, the stories about these things mean more to me than the actual physicality of the lift. So to some people, it's different. Some people just love conquering the stone. They love lifting the stone and feeling that they've conquered this particular milestone for themselves. To me, it's all about the story and the history and the depth of the roots of this. The seam of this kind of runs deep through who we are as a people here. We are the Dini Clihe, we're the people of stone. We've been moving and lifting stone in Ireland and Scotland, Wales, in all these places for millennia. We have the dolmens, the cromlechs, the standing stones, the stone circles. We have all of this here. We've been moving and lifting stone for millennia. And to me, you're becoming a part of that root deep part of the culture by lifting these things, especially with a stone attached to an ancient clan like that. It's to me, that's the most powerful part of this. You're becoming just the next link in a very, very, very long chain,
So you weren't aware of stone lifting or a tradition of it in Ireland. How did you go about trying to determine if there was one?
So how do you look for a lost culture? Where do you start? Where do you start looking for a culture that you don't even know it's there? So I just started, as everybody does, on researching online, and I came across one. I typed in Irish stone lifting, and I came across one reference. Like if you type in Irish stone lifting now, it's viral. It's just everywhere. Pictures of my fucking head everywhere. Pictures of people stone lifting all over the place, documentaries, TV shows. But 4 or 5 years ago, there was nothing. There was one reference by a man called Dr. Conor Heffernan. And Dr. Conor Heffernan had written a treatise called 19th Century Strength in Ireland. And in that, he had heavily referenced stone lifting and a story written by a man called Liam O'Flaherty. So Liam O'Flaherty is a very, very famous Irish writer and essayist. And he wrote a beautiful story called The Stone. He lived on an island called Inishmore, which is one of the Aran Islands off the west coast of Galway. And he wrote a story called The Stone about an old man like lamenting his lost strength and youth. And he thinking the greatest day in his life was picking up of this particular stone on the island. That was the testing stone of the island. So I thought that was a beautiful story. Conor had heavily referenced it in his piece. So I then started looking online for references to stone lifting on the Aran Islands. Found a very old Reddit thread with a man called Peter Martin, who brought stone lifting back pretty much in Scotland, talking to a woman on the island called Fiona. And she said that the stone that Liam O'Flaherty wrote about is an actual stone based on an actual practice of an actual culture that has been here for thousands and thousands of years. The stone is on this particular pathway going down towards Gortnacop, which is an old village on the Aran Islands. She said, I think the stone is still there. I hope this helps somebody. And that was written about 15 years ago now. So I was like, hold on a second, you're telling me that this isn't fiction. It's not a fictional story. It's a story that's based on reality, based on a culture that was actually there. So it was like, right, the Aran Islands, which is like a 4.5 hour drive from here, 45 minutes on a ferry, 25 minutes on a bike, because there's no fucking car around there. You have to cycle to this place. And then I walked down this pathway where she said it was. Now, the Aran Islands is just rocks. It's just rocks and rocks and rocks. It's all it is. It's glacial karst landscape. Nothing, no trees. There's very, very little grass. It's just rocks. So it's like, there's 10,000 rocks here. How the fuck am I going to know which rock is the rock? So I'm like, how am I going to know which one? There's rocks everywhere. It's just a field of boulders, But it says in the book that it was a round block of granite and it sparkled as the sunshine shone upon the particles of meek in the surface. And it lay in a little hollow with bruised stones all around it. And then it said that it was a practice of the young men to test their strength by lifting it. So that was the line in the story. So it's like a round block of granite. That's probably a different color. So I'm walking down this pathway where she said it was. And this round pink fucking granite boulder in a field of grey stands out like an absolute beacon, with bruised stones all around it, a couple of little warm-up stones beside it. I'm like, that's it. That's it, I didn't for certain know it was it, but I mean, I took a good guess. It was like, I think it has to be that. You can feel an energy of it. Something like, that's it. Like, so I tried to pick the thing up, couldn't lift it. But as I'm walking back, I meet an old man giving a walking tour for some Americans. And I was like, Gamaleshka, excuse me, do you know anything about the lifting stone down there? He's like, oh yeah, the Mullan Port Vale doing. He said, the pink one down there, the patch of grass. That's it. That's it. But he said, look, it's a shame he didn't come here 6 months earlier. He said, because there's an old man who used to live in that house there. He said he died at 92 years old and he knew everything about the stone. He knew all the story, the lineage, the genealogy, the history of it. He knew everything, all the stories. But he's dead and the stories are gone now. But I know the name of it. And I know people have been lifting that for generations and generations here. And it's called the Mullan Port Vale Doom, which literally Mullan means round granite boulder And Port Vale on Doon is the mouth of the port of the fort. And the fort is Doon Angus, which is sitting on the hill. And that's the second oldest fort in Europe. So it's from the Bronze Age. So, I mean, you're talking that this thing could be attached to a Bronze Age fort, which is what, 3,500 BC. So this thing is here a long, long, long time. How long has people been lifting this? I don't know. But to me, it's the jewel in the crown of Irish stone lifting. It was the first one I found, but I think the story behind it is amazing with Liam O'Flaherty. But the actual finding of it, the verification of it, the name of it, and the place where it is just absolutely magic. And it's 171 kilos. It's a damn big rock to lift as well. It took me 7 attempts to get back there and lift that stone up the chest, because Liam gave the three levels of man. So if you could get the gwe fui, the wind under the stone, it was a great day in any young man's life. If you could get it to your lap, you're a champion, equal of the best. But if you could stand up with that stone to your chest and kiss it 3 times, you were a phenomenon of strength to be spoken about for generations. So I was like, that's just the coolest title ever. I have to see, can I get that title? So it took 3 years of training and 7 visits to the Aran Islands to finally get that stone up to my chest. And that was me done. Then I'm happy after that. I could die happy after that then. But just what an amazing find, and what an amazing full circle moment.
Tell me about the 2 moments. The first one, recognizing that you found your first Irish lifting stone, and the second moment of lifting it, kissing it 3 times.
So the first time finding it was like, I can't believe it, because there's a website dedicated to stone lifting around the world called Old Man of the Stones, and it's dedicated to Peter Martin, who brought the culture back in Scotland about 15 years ago. And Scotland is a plume of dots and blue markers of where all these stones are. Iceland is the same. There's about 7 or 8 in Wales. The Faroe Islands has loads, all the way across this longitudinal line. And we were the broken link. We had nothing in Ireland, none, So to find that and have us as part of this culture worldwide was a massive moment. It was a very emotional moment. I was like, I couldn't believe it. We finally got that one little blue dot off the coast. That's our one, but we have one now. And I then was thinking to myself, where there's one, there's more, So first of all, just to get that verified and have it on the map was a huge, huge moment for the culture, worldwide, really, you know what I mean? Because of course for Ireland it's amazing, but to have it, to continue that line, I thought was beautiful. But then, sure, like the first time I tried to lift it, Sam, I couldn't budge it. I couldn't get it off the ground at all. I couldn't get any wind under it. I'd just come back from Scotland. The heaviest stone I lifted in Scotland, I think, was 130. 171 felt like trying to lift a mountain. It's a big, big percentage more than when I lifted, in Scotland. But I said, I want to do this. This is just a personal quest. I want to see, can I do this? So sure enough, what happened then was the Liam O'Flaherty Society on the island, who celebrate his work because he's from Inishmore, say, look, next summer, we want to have you over as part of the Society Day to lift the stone in front of the Islanders and the Liam O'Flaherty Society, because we can't believe you found the stone that he wrote about. We didn't know about this stone. We knew about the story, but we didn't know where the stone was. So we can't believe you found it. So we want you to lift it in front of the Society, all the Islanders, and we're going to get we're going to get media present as well. So I can't even pick this fucking thing up. You know what I mean? You've got like 12 months to train, So I trained like a demon. I mean, I put my kettlebell sport mentality into training for stone lifting. So I just started lifting heavier and heavier and heavier, eating more, lifting heavier, putting on weight. I mean, when I was doing kettlebells, I was 77, 76 kilos. Now I'm now 96 kilos. You know what I mean? And it's just putting on muscle, putting on weight, lifting heavier, eating more. And I go back out to this place 12 months later. And it turns out that there's actually 3 film crews come. We've got a big TV station called Nationwide in Ireland. The news came out, TG Cahir News came out, and a documentary team came out. So we had 3 boom mics, 3 cameras, about 150 Islanders, and the Liam O'Flaherty Society, So no pressure, lad, you know what I mean? So I was like, I don't even know, can I pick this fucking thing up? So I go out, but I have confidence in my training. I go out, they read the story of the stone, they're not the stone itself. Very, very emotional. They read it in Irish and in English. And then I was like, David, lift the stone. So I managed that time to pick the stone up and get it up onto my lap, which meant you were a champion, equal to the best. I couldn't stand up with it at that time. But even just to get that lap was amazing. You know, that was the first time Irish stone lifting was ever shown on the TV. And it got a lot of traction. It got a lot of traction because it was just such a beautiful thing, you know, such a beautiful area. Inishmore is unbelievably beautiful, you know, barren, rocky, but just majestic, majestic. And you had all these people cheering you on, and you know, you had the lifting of this heavy, beautiful pink boulder. It got a load of attention online. It got a load of attention social media wise, and it was a wonderful moment. But the real, sorry, I talk a lot, but the real full circle moment for me was I went back 6 months ago with an Irish speaking um, festival on the island that was held for a week. And there's a wonderful woman called Molly Godera, and Molly was hosting. She said, David, I love the story. Would you come back and lift a stone for me? For all these people who want to speak, we want to bring the language back and bring our culture back. Will you be a part of the festival? I said, I'd be honoured to. So again, I've been training like a mad idiot. And I go back out and I meet these people off the boat, and there's 75 people on bikes, and they're all cheering you, you know. They're like, you know, we love what you're doing, and, you know, thank you so much. And like, oh, that's great, you know what I mean? Mila Margaret, and, you know, Tommy Duggan in the club, we're going down to the Stones. So down we go. And I was giving a talk about the story and the finding of it, like I'm telling you now. I was giving this talk, and there must have been, an easy 150, 200 people there. And they all came around me then in a circle. So I was in the middle, and they're all around me in a circle, you know. And I was feeling a little bit nervous. So I was like, will someone put on some music or put on some Illan pipe or something, you know, give me a fucking buzz, give me a lift here. And they all started singing in Irish.
Wow.
I can fucking shivers even thinking about it. So they all started singing Oro Shidavahawalia, which means Oro, you're welcome home. It's a very, very ancient Irish song. With me in the middle. So it was like all this concentrated energy was coming in. And I managed to pick that stone up and turn it and bring it up to my chest and kiss it 3 times.
Wow.
Put it down. I broke down with tears. All the people came in a big group hug around me in a circle, you know, and it was just one of those unbelievable Disney moments that you could never, ever, ever try and do again. Everything was just perfect. It was a perfect moment. We don't get many perfect moments, but I pinned it on my stories. If anybody wants to look at this, it's the first pin on my stories on Instagram. It's that moment, you know, and it's just beautiful. I can't watch it because I fucking break down watching it. I can't watch it. It was just the most unbelievable experience of my life. You know, I'll never be able to top that. To me, like, you know, if I never do anything ever again, that's it. That was just the moment, you know.
Absolutely amazing. Now, just like Indiana Jones, you set out on a quest because now you start to think, hang on, lifting stones is something that could be across Ireland. How did you then start to go, all right, let's go out and try and find some more?
So the first one I found, now, I don't know how spiritual you are, but I'm very, very spiritual. I wouldn't call myself religious, but I'm extremely spiritual. So I was coming back from the first stone, and the very, very first time I found it, and I went to a holy water well, which is like the freshwater well on the island. And in ancient Irish mythologies and culture and folklore, all wells are connected, and they're all connected to the underworld. So the other world, I should say. So I asked the land's permission at that well to find more. There was a stone there, and I picked it up. Well, a beautiful round blue stone. I picked it up and put it on top of the well. And I asked the land's permission to bring this back. And I truly believe that small act of humility and asking permission gave me the right to then go looking for these things. Because 2 days later, I get a phone call from a guy on another island, on Inishman, the island next door. And he was like, just to let you know that there's a lifting stone on this island too. Go to that island, meet this guy. Sure enough, the lifting stone is there in the graveyard. Beautiful lifting stone. As I'm walking back from there, a guy shouts over a wall, we've a stone called a stonemason's test on my land, he said. I saw you walking up. And it was literally just next. And it just fell into my lap. It literally just, I literally just pulled at the fucking thread of this. And the whole thing just unraveled because people wanted to tell you their stories. What I found was amazing with the Sam was like all these people in these little local areas knew of these stories, but just the people in the area, just that little village, you know, might have known about it. But the greater public didn't know anything about it. So all I done was literally shine a light on it and say, look at what we have here, you know? And sure enough, there is fucking loads of it here. So many stories. An unbelievable amount of stories.
What do these lifting stones mean to Irish society?
Yeah, so like a lot of them, I wouldn't say a lot of them. Probably about a third of them were just feats of strength, to be lifted on Sundays, just as a form of diversion, of doing something on a Sunday. They were lifted at crossroads. They were lifted at funerals, and they were lifted kind of before or after mass. Comes up a hell of a lot for Irish lifting stones, because the only time people are supposed to get together in times before there's any telephones or anything like that would be at events. So either at funerals or at mass on a Sunday, and all the men would gather and there'd be a bit of cracking, as men do. The stone has been there for thousands of years or hundreds of years, and it's like, who can pick it up? And lads go around, they have a few bets, they have a few drinks, they have a bit of crack. So there was that part of it was a small part of it, but the funeral, to lift them at funeral games, like in these graveyards, was a huge thing in Ireland too. So we had funeral games or wake games. So like funerals were like 3-day events here, pre-famine, pre-1840 times. And funerals for well-known or well-respected people could go on for days and days and days. So like, again, as a form of diversion at the games, or I think as a form of celebration of life, maybe because it's the opposite of death, we had funeral games. So, and part of that was stone lifting, but there was like collar and elbow wrestling. There was like feats of endurance, running, horse racing. I mean, these were events, they were celebrations as opposed to what they are now. They were the total opposite of what they are now. They were actual celebrations of people's lives. But then you had these lifting stones, specific lifting stones in the graveyards that were lifted on these days. So they were lifted at funerals to honor the dead, They were also lifted at weddings to honor the living. They were lifted as harvest festivals to honor the harvest. There's a few of those that are coming up in Ireland too. They were lifted as rites of passage from boyhood to manhood. I mean, there's so many different aspects of this in Ireland. It's amazing. It's not just pick up a stone. It's a very, very intertwined, what we call fitja fuja. It's fitja fuja to the culture here, The lifting and moving a stone is very much kind of entrenched in who we are as a people.
So then, David, why did this whole tradition leave the collective memory of Ireland?
Well, I suppose there's the one big reason for that would be colonialism. I mean, we were an occupied country for a long, long time. We still are in the north. We had our culture deliberately stripped. People don't understand that. Like in the 16th and 17th centuries here, we had the penal laws. And the penal laws meant you couldn't speak your own language. We couldn't speak Irish. You couldn't practice your own religion. You couldn't practice your own culture. And you couldn't play your own music. Or you were fined, heavily fined, or jailed, or killed, So we used to have what they call hedge priests and hedge schools, who are literally teaching children our culture and our language in ditches, in hedges, under trees. We couldn't do it inside, just to keep the language and our folklore and our customs alive. But I mean, a lot of that was stripped. A lot of it was stripped. I mean, then it was like, you can only speak English. You can't speak Irish. You can't do your customs. So like, we had that taken away from us. And then, of course, culminating in the famine of the 1840s, which wasn't a famine, it was a genocide. And our people were killed. Half the country died or emigrated in a couple of years, Food was withheld from the Irish people. And we were forced to live on the margins and live on the one crop that we could grow, which was potatoes, which then got a blight. And when they got a blight, the English were still taking all the food out of the country. You know what I mean? We were a very rich, very arid country. The food was still going out, but we weren't given any of it. So people were forced to emigrate, forced to leave. People then were trying to steal food or get food for their families. They got jailed, sent to America, sent to Australia, sent to Van Diemen's Land, So that happened. I mean, that happened, and it was very, very, such a deep cultural wound here. Very, very deep cultural wound. So we had a lot of things taken away from us. And I mean, suppose the last thing you want to do when you're starving is to try and pick up a stone. You can barely pick yourself up off the fucking ground. So the last thing you want to do is lift these heavy stones. Stories got forgotten. People left the areas, left the villages. Stones got forgotten about. Stories, people left, and that was it. I mean, it wasn't just this. There was a lot of our culture. This was just one part of it.
So, the British obviously coming in and bringing colonialism to Ireland really destroyed much of the culture of what was Ireland. Now, finding these stones and bringing back a tradition, how does that make you feel in terms of turning back time?
I mean, the strength is back. Tá neart ar ais, the strength is back. The pride is back, Brought a bit of strength and a bit of pride back to your nation. We were a fucking strong people. We always were, very, very strong in character, very, very strong in physicality, very, very renowned for being strong, hardy people. Our stonemasons, our fishermen, all these hardworking men of the land. And we had that taken away from us. But now it's back. And you're giving the country a little bit of its pride back. And what an honor. What a fucking honor to be able to do that. And like, I'm just literally just showing people, like, this is what we had. Look at how strong we were. Look at what we could do. Look at the size of these stones that these men and women were lifting. I just think that's a beautiful thing. I think it's beautiful to be able to give that back to the people and see it come alive again. I mean, people are coming every day and get photographs and videos of people visiting these stones now, lifting them and feeling the fucking energy from it and feeling how good that feels. I mean, I've seen lads break down crying at these stones. I mean, I have as well myself, because you're touching something ancient. It's something deep inside you. You're putting your hands where people have put their hands for hundreds, if not thousands of years. You're feeling the depth of this, in a very, very shallow society that we live in now. We live in a very, very fucking shallow, very shallow society, very narcissistic. But you're putting your hands on something that's the total opposite. It's bone deep, marrow. And there's something powerful about that. And it's just wonderful to be able to give that back to the people.
I think, David, one of the absolutely fascinating things is that the stone doesn't give a shit who you are.
Stone don't care. Stone don't give a fuck. The stone is there. Like, the stone only wants to be lifted. So it doesn't care about your age, your race, your gender, whatever, your religion. It doesn't matter. The stone is there. So, I mean, we've had, like I said, men and women lift these stones, and there's some wonderful stories in our national folklore collection, which I'll have to get into as well with you, about women lifting these stones too, and outlifting the men sometimes. And they've been so famous that then they get their story written down and remembered forever. But I mean, the stones don't care. I mean, like, and we have specific female lifting stones here too, which I think is wonderful, which you don't get in many other societies. Like, we have the Cloch na Man down in County Clare, which is the woman's lifting stone, literally means the woman's lifting stone. It's 112 kilos. It's a big fucking stone.
That's a big stone.
It's a big stone. You know what I mean? So the woman's lifting stone is 112, and the man's lifting stone, Cloch na Far, is 162. And these were lifted at the funeral games down in County Clare. And I think it's one, because there's women come to lift that stone. I think there's been 5 or 6 women lift that stone already. And Aishia Ulla, who'll be Ireland's strongest woman 5 times over, recently lifted it there in a documentary that we shot for RTE, lifted it up to her chest. So I think she's the first woman, possibly in 150 years, maybe more, who has lifted that stone to the chest. And she also lifted a man's stone off the ground, which was incredible. So like I said, the stone don't care. They're just, in Ireland, we just call them the Cloch Nirt. They're the stones of strength. They're not specifically attached to gender, to man or to woman. They're just there to be lifted. So everybody is welcome.
Tell me about a couple of moments that has really given you goosebumps, because I'm sure that there must be a few.
Oh, well, I mean, like I said, I'm never going to top the one on the Aran Islands. I'm never going to top that with the singing. I mean, how in the name of God can you top that? I mean, it was like the most unbelievable moment probably of my life, bar my children being born. But I mean, like, watching Aishia do that for the first time, watching the woman's lifting stone be lifted, because I've seen men struggle lifting that stone. It's a big stone, and it's another thing to get into. Is like, it's much harder to lift a stone than it is to lift a barbell. It's not made to be lifted. You have to figure out the weight. You're outside. It's Ireland. It's always piss and rain. There's wet. There's mud. There's no traction. Your grip becomes an issue. So it's all that grip strength. But just to see her lift that stone was absolutely just truly wonderful. There's been some great lifts of these stones, but I mean, one that really stands out to me is the Seafin stone up in the north, up in County Derry, up in the north of Ireland. A stone that was thrown by Fionn McCool through mythology. And it was an old chieftain's coronation stone. So you have to ascend to a hilltop and put your hand on the stone to announce your right to rule as a chieftain in this area. And you had to be able to lift this stone too, It's 257 kilos. It's a pillar. You just have to be able to hug it and get it off the ground. So you're lifting a stone that was a chieftain's ascension stone. It was thrown by one of the greatest figures in Irish mythology, Fionn McCool, and you're lifting it on a mountaintop. And there's something very, very powerful about that. So I done that. I remember doing that. I've done it twice now. And both times you're feeling a power come through you that you can't quite comprehend, because it's over a quarter of a ton. It's a big, big weight to be lifting, But there's a power in that area. that you just can't quantify, you know. And I was lifting it at sunset, and like the sunlight coming down in golden beams, and the stone is a schist and silver, and it's glowing amber as you're lifting it. There's some magic here, like, you know. It's So there's been some powerful moments I've had, some powerful moments I've had myself, and watch other people. To me now, it's watching the other people have these moments too is very, very rewarding, you know, to see the people take it to their hearts and say, look, isn't this amazing? Isn't this a wonderful part of the culture? And people are now traveling from all over the world, Sam. People come from everywhere. And I see people getting inspired. There's a gentleman now in Australia lifting, and he's on, I think it's Australian stone lifting. And he's around setting up lifting stones in Australia, going around the whole nation, setting them up. And sure, in 20, 30 years' time, they're going to be historic lifting stones, you know. I mean, he's starting the story, and just full credit to him and respect, because the stories have to start somewhere. But to see people in their own culture look for it now and go out and ask in their local areas, you know, that's what I'm loving. It's like people are now, it's not just me doing it. There's a whole hive network of people going out doing it now in Ireland, and not just in Ireland. Of a guy in Brittany doing it in France. There's Callum Stott has started in England. You know what you've lit the fire in people, I suppose. You know, to go look for these things in their own countries as well. So just unbelievable.
David, some of the stones haven't been lifted for perhaps hundreds of years, and you've found them through folklore to really track them down. And quite often they might be overgrown. They might be buried under, you know, a couple of hundred years of weather. Yeah. Do you feel when you find those stones that they're just sitting there waiting for the next person to lift them?
The stones are always there. It's just the story was forgotten, you know? So the stones are just waiting for the story to be refound again, so they can become alive again. And that's what it's been. There has been some I've literally had to dig out of the ground, you know? I've literally had to dig them out of ditches or hedges or undergrowth. You know, I've had to do that with my bill hook and go looking for these things. I mean, we shot a 1-hour documentary with RTE, and we went looking for a stone called the Moat Stone down in County Wexford. And it was on an old Norman Mott and Bailey around Moat, where a timber palisade would be built, like a timber fort. So the whole thing is overgrown with weeds and nettles and briars. But I was told, and in Dukas it said that there's a stone that the men used to lift down here as a test of strength, called the Moat Stone. So we went down looking for it, just through pure chance, just through pure hope for this documentary. The thing is 150 fucking feet around with an 8-foot moat covered in weeds and birds. I'm like, I could be here a month cutting with a fucking bill hook and I'll never find it. And within 15 minutes of cutting, managed to find it through pure fluke. But I don't believe in fluke anymore. I believe these things want to be found now. You know, I've asked the permission. I've been given the permission to find them. They want to be found. I mean, like I said, I could have been there a month, honest to God, because the size of this place, the amount of overgrowth here, and it was the middle of the summer. Like, there's no hope I could find this. You know, we went down just in expectation, and within 15 fucking minutes of cutting, found this massive stone that was the exact same shape and size that they said in the story, and there it is found again. You know, it's been that, but that's the way it's been. I mean, anytime I've gone looking for these things, I tend to find them. You know, I mean, it's the chances of finding them is so slim. You know, you're following a 90-year-old story written by a school kid back in the 1930s in their folklore collection. The story is 90 years old. Lots have changed in 90 years, but you still managed to find these things.
How do you see younger generations really responding to what you're doing?
The one that stands out to me was I was giving a talk down at the European Powerlifting Convention, which has been held in County Limerick last year. And we had the top powerlifters in Europe come over, give demonstrations and give talks. So I was asked to give a talk about stone lifting, which I did on a panel discussion. And the next day, we go down to County Clare because it's the closest stone to where we were. Because people were like, I think this is fucking fascinating. Can I go look at these stones? So we had 2 Irish lads as well come with us who were on the Irish powerlifting team. 2 young lads, I think were 19 or 20. And they went down, and this lad, who was incredibly strong, you know, he couldn't get this man stone off the ground. He was trying and trying and trying. But then he took stock. He went away for a while. He came back and he got it about 2 or 3 inches off the ground. And he broke down of floods of tears. Loads of tears. And he asked, he was like, why am I crying? Why am I crying? I don't understand. You know, he he didn't know what to do. It was like, you're feeling it, you know? You're feeling the marrow of this. You're feeling the depth of it. And I think it's given a lot of purpose and clarity and meaning to me, but I now I've seen it given a lot of purpose and clarity and meaning to the younger generations, because everyone is on screens, right? We're all on screens. Everybody is. I'm as guilty as anybody. But when you go to these places, first of all, it's a pilgrimage to get to these places. A lot of these places are in the west of Ireland. They're in old graveyards. They're off the beaten track. You're getting out, Sam, into the wilds, the wild Fenian landscape of Ireland, and you're seeing how beautiful it is. You're like, first of all, as a young man or a young woman, to go and see the beauty of your own country is a wonderful thing to give someone. It's like, it's an excuse to visit a place like this, the west of Galway, the west of Mayo, out to the islands. It's given them an adventure. So first of all, they feel like they're on an adventure. That's a wonderful thing to give anybody, right? You're not living vicariously through somebody else online. You're fucking doing it yourself. And then you're going to the stone. You're going to the stone and you're putting your hands on something that people have been lifting for millennia, possibly. You're giving them depth. You're giving them appreciation of their own culture. And you're giving them clarity and purpose in their training. So you're giving them a lot of very, very good things. You're giving them purpose. You're giving them clarity. You're giving them meaning. You're giving them back their culture. And you're giving them a way to get off screens and get out and do something real. So isn't that a wonderful thing to be able to give anybody?
It's amazing. What is the discovery of each of these stones given to the villages that they're found in?
Oh, there's some pride there. The pride. I mean, this Gaelic tribalism that is a part of who we are, you know. Is there stone in my village? You know, is there stone in my county? You know, everyone. I get phone calls. Like, there was one lad's like, there wasn't any found in County Kerry, which is a huge county. Is there any in County Kerry? No. Fuck. Okay, I've got to go looking for one of these. So, like, it's just, we got to find one in our county. I got to find one in my village. And then when you find one in our county or village, is it the heaviest one in Ireland? Is it the heaviest one? No. Fuck. What's the heaviest one? Everyone wants that. They want to have one. They want to have the biggest one. They want to have the best story. You know, people, it's just that old Gaelic tribalism that, you know, we have it with the GAA, we have it with the hurling and the football here, you know. People are so proud. And even like you're meeting, because you're at the tail end of this, but you can still meet some people who have lifted these things before. I'm meeting some old men in their 80s and 90s who maybe 50, 60 years ago were the last person to lift that stone, you know, and they're coming out to watch you lift it. That happened to me 3 or 4 times, especially on the islands. This old lad comes out, you know, he spots me lifting the stone on Inisheer. He totters down the road. It takes him about 10 minutes to walk about 100 yards with a cane. And he was like, sorry to interrupt you, he said, but I just wanted to watch you lift. I said, no problem at all. He said, my name is such and such. I'm the last man who lifted that stone on this island. So I want to, like, you know, lift it up, son, and keep the culture going, you know.
Wow.
I mean, unbelievable, you know.
You took one of these stones over to Boston in the US for the Celtic Games and gave Irish Americans the opportunity to lift something that is deeply rooted in Irish tradition. How did that make them feel?
Well, it wasn't a historic lifting stone. It was just one that I'd lifted. I've been lifting it on the beach here in Benvie. And there's a stone that kind of started kind of the whole journey for me to go looking for stone lifting, you know. So to me, it meant a lot. So I was like, I'm giving you a part of the story of the recovery of this culture here. And I'm giving you a part of, literally a piece of Ireland. I'm giving you a piece of the homeland. I couldn't believe how well it got. It just got so much respect over there. It got so much love and attention. We inaugurated it at the No Fame Games in Boston. Those wonderful people invited me over, Joshua and Jen, and got to go over there and in this huge Highland festival, like a massive world championship festival, managed to unwrap that stone and lift it for the first time on American soil. But there must have been 150 people come to lift it on the day. People who were competing in the festival, the people in the crowd, men and women. We had the first 2 women actually lifted the chest on that day too. 2 incredible women over there. But I mean, just because people were literally coming up to put their fucking hands on it, Sam. You know, the little kids, you know, and their dads and mans going over and say, there's Ireland, you know, and they're like, there it is, you know, and taking photographs and stuff. And that's exactly what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to have this kind of cultural significance, and it has had, and it's been brought around at all these Celtic festivals now. In America, it was at the Worcester Festival there about 2 months ago. And again, people just coming over just to pick it up or to put their hands on it. You know what I mean? Old men, old women. You know, they mightn't have gotten to Ireland in their lifetimes, but there's a piece of it. You know, you can put your hand on it. So yeah, what a thing to do. Just a mad idea that kind of took off, and I'm hopefully going to do the same thing now in Nova Scotia in Canada.
There must be so many moving moments throughout all of this, David. Did you expect it to become a national, even an international movement?
Look, I went looking for this because I was inspired by the documentaries that Rope made. Very innocently, just to see was the culture here. I thought it was a really cool idea. My main goal, what I wanted from it was, first of all, to see was it fucking here at all, and if it was, to get respect. And it's gone beyond wildest dreams territory now, because I'm in the process of, I've applied for a PhD, to write a PhD on it. It's gotten academic papers written on it. We've just finished making a documentary, which we've been on the TV for the last month, called Made of Stone, about the culture of it here. I've been on national TV 5 or 6 times. Literally, their book is written. I'm going out after this to announce that I'm writing a book with Bloomsbury International. So that's you're getting the worldwide on that. And that's coming out next May. It's gone to a level that I never thought possible. But the most important part of it all, besides all the personal amazing things that happened to me, is the culture's alive and well, and it will be, please God, forever. And that's it, and you will always be the person synonymous with the act of being at the spearhead of bringing it back. Because like, I didn't bring it back. The Irish people brought it back. I just shone a light on it. But I think, again, you're kind of intertwined with that now going forward.
David, many of the guests on my show who have done absolutely amazing things, Lockie Smart, the youngest person to fly solo around the world, Ed Enrich, the first person to circumnavigate the planet only using human power, Aaron Linsdau skied to the South Pole, Andrew Locke climbed every peak over 8,000 metres. All of these people, their spark started from someone giving a slideshow in a pub or seeing a show or a documentary on TV. And you mentioned that this whole spark started with a documentary where you saw something about the lifting stones. How important, because you just mentioned just before that you've created a documentary, how important is the documentary making to inspiring the next generation?
To me, I was very, very cognizant of that, because I was like, I want to get the ethos of this out, that I wanted it, that it's not just man lifts stone, it's we're lifting our culture up, and the documentary was very, very much centered on that. So I'm very, very proud of it. I think it comes across really, really well. It's like, no, it's not about the weight of the stone. It's not about how high you lift it. It's about keeping the culture alive, And we deliberately didn't even put the weight to the stones when I was lifting them on the screen or anything. That was a deliberate, it doesn't matter, It doesn't matter about the weight of it. It just matters about the process of going to these things and lifting them. So I'm extremely proud of the documentary. We've just got it back. It was 30 days on the Irish RTE player. I think we're going to try and extend this worldwide too. I hope it does, because like I said, I've already seen this journey inspire people worldwide. Like you said, even, you caught wind of me in Queensland, do you know what I mean? But I've seen people actually actively looking for their own cultures through this. And I really think the documentary is themed around that. So that's something I'm most proud of.
Let's talk about that, David. People searching for their own cultures that have perhaps been lost through the last couple of 100 years, particularly the last 50 years with technology advances, and people just too bored, basically, and they just sit on their couch doom scrolling. How have you seen the work that you're doing, but also people around the world in search of forgotten cultures?
I mean, I was inspired by a lot of people here, not just the Stonelift. I was inspired by the likes of the now deceased, may he rest in peace, Manchán Magan, who was at the forefront of bringing back the Irish language and the Irish culture here. People like Eddie Lenihan, or Shanachis, are storytellers. So to me, it's about, like I said, it's about the culture coming back more than anything, and following in the footsteps of these giants, people who I've respected for decades. I'm now getting to meet these people. I mean, I was literally talking at an archaeologist convention, Ireland archaeologist convention last weekend. I'm not a fucking archaeologist, but I was invited up to give a talk. And I thought I'd get a bit of pushback, because I don't have an education in this, but everyone was so respectful and so happy. And Ireland's eminent top archaeologist, man called Michael Gibbons, our top field archaeologist, who's done all the work on the Skellig Islands, all the work on all our ancient sites, stood up at the end and said, "I think you're a national treasure." And I said, "I just want to say thank you so much for the work you're doing." I mean, that to me was just dream come true moment, because I've been following Michael for 20 years. He's done some of the most important research work in Ireland. To me, he is the Indiana Jones of Ireland, you know. So for someone of that level to say thank you for your work and well done, and what a moment, you know. So, I mean, like I said, it's about bringing your own culture back, and I was so happy that I see Callum in England doing it, you know, and because of, isn't it amazing that like we had this taken away from us through colonization from the English, but they also had the culture there, and they'd forgotten about it. They'd threw it to the side, I suppose, generations ago as well. But now the English people are bringing it back as well, and the Irish person who had his culture taken away has given the English person the impetus to go looking for it in their own country. And there's a bit of healing in that as well, you know.
Where do you see this leading?
I mean, at this stage, who the fuck knows? Joe Rogan next? I mean, I don't fucking know. But I mean, if you asked me that, if someone asked me that 4 years ago, I'd be like, I hope it's here. It'd be great. But now you're like, I've had a beer named after me. All this mad shit go on, right? Now, for me, the most important part, Sam, is the education. So I want to educate people on this. So I've applied, and please God, I'll get it, to write a PhD, a doctorate on this, start from next year. So for now, it's about education. It's about keeping the stories alive. It's about being respectful to the actual stones themselves, getting them recognized, getting them protected. And through the process of that, hopefully inspiring people to get more in touch with their own culture, but who they are as an Irish person, but who they are as a person in general, worldwide, to get off screens, to look out and see what's out there. You know, the whole world is out there, and you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, and don't tell you that you can, because I put myself forward as that. I'm just an ordinary working man, you know. I work a 40-hour week still, but in my spare time, I've managed to unearth and bring back an entire lost culture of my own country, just through a bit of passion and a bit of getting up off my ass and going looking for it. So anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
You mentioned earlier the Australian man who's setting up lifting stones around the country. How do you communicate with those kinds of people? How do you encourage them? And what does that mean to you that they're going out and doing this now?
Oh, I mean, I'm very sorry. I can't remember his first name, but you know, to be Instagram handles. You know people only through Instagram handles sometimes. But he said, look, through listening to you and listening to guys in Scotland like Jamie Gorian and Martin Chances and all these wonderful people, he said, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the idea of it. I fell in love with the culture of it. So I want to start that here now too. And I've seen the guys in Canada do the same thing, like the guys at the Edmonton Stones of Strength in Canada. The people, like the guys at like New England Stone Lifting in America, they're starting the culture in their own land, you know? So I just they contact me, or I contact them through Instagram. Just give a private message, and they're like, look, I love what you're doing. I really respect you. Then like, I'm very given my time, because I know what it's like. You know, I was that way with the guys in Scotland. I looked up so much to these guys, and they were so giving of their time. I'm going to do the same now to everybody else. It's like, you know, would you mind having a chat sometime? You get on, we might do a private message or like a video call. You know, just tell them, look, if you need any help, if you need any promotion, I can do that, because I got a big following now on Instagram. I'll help you out in any way I can. You know, let's push this forward together, you know, and maybe meet up someday and do a bit of lifting together, you know. But I mean, it's wonderful that now that you have a platform that you can help other people out, you know, who are starting their journey. Because I mean, it's commendable. It's like the old man planting an acorn. Like, he's never going to see the oak tree, you know, but he's planting it anyway. You know, and in 20, 30, 50, 100 years' time, these stones they will gather their own stories, and there'll be historic lifting stones in Australia, in America, in Canada, you know. Wonderful.
Hopefully our Wallabies, our Australian rugby team, can start lifting these and get a little bit stronger, considering the walloping we copped from the Irish last weekend.
Yeah, that was great.
Oh, that was atrocious.
Oh man, yeah, it's look, it's not often we get to do it, so we take any win we can get off you guys, you know.
In terms of young people these days and being stuck on their screens, what's your message to those people who feel like there is just no rite of passage anymore? Our rite of passage is we turn 18 or we get our driver's license. That's it. There is no test of physical strength, of mental strength, or anything these days?
There's not, and it's something that we're sorely lacking, you know. Um, all of these indigenous cultures, ourselves included, had a rite of passage, you know, to become an adult. And it's a very important thing. It's a very, very important thing that we've forgotten about. You have to train for it mentally and physically. You have to train for it. You have to achieve something difficult to become a man or to become a woman, you know. You have to do something difficult. And the process of that helps mentally helps you so much in becoming an adult that I really think it's something that we've forgotten about. So, I mean, like I say to people, most of these indigenous cultures worldwide, and I've delved deep into stone lifting over the past couple of years, there's a stone lifting culture pretty much everywhere, you know? So if you do want to physically feel like you're becoming something, you know, go out and try them, train for it. You know, there's nothing like training, discipline, discipline. Train 3, 4 days a week. Give yourself some mental clarity. Give yourself some purpose. Ain't nothing like having a purpose, you know, having a goal. And then when you go achieve that goal, you go do it. Brilliant. What's the next goal? And it gives you a hunger to go to do the next thing and the next thing. I suppose it's just like I said, sitting down and doom scrolling. And nothing like clarity or purpose, you know, to give you a meaning in your life. Everybody needs meaning. I'm thankful enough I found my meaning through this. And now I can pass that meaning on. And that's an incredible thing to be able to say.
I think one of the important things here, David, is that these stones are bloody heavy. It takes years to train for them. And, you know, as the adage goes, good things come to those who wait. You put the effort in over
Yes.
years and years and years, you build up the ability to go out and do this. And now in a society where we're being trapped in 15-second videos, just quick flicks, quick flicks, having that goal, like you say, and having the spark of people going out to watch your documentary and many of the other great stories of amazing people around the world, what do you say to someone who's wanting to start their own journey of reconnection? What would you say?
I say to people, and I always say this, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Just go do it. Just do it. Like there's never a perfect time to do anything. There's never a perfect time to start anything. Just go do it. I mean, literally doing it and figuring it out as I'm going has worked so well for me over the past 12 years. I can't recommend it enough. Whether it be running, whether it be kettlebell sport, becoming a world champion, European champion, a world record holder, bringing back a culture. It was only a matter of just jumping in feet first and doing it and figuring it out as you go. But if you overthink and overanalyze, because people do now, I get it all the time. When should I start? What should I do? What should I lift? What should I eat? Just go fucking do it. Just do it. You know what I mean? And build it. And build it nice and slowly. It's not going to happen overnight, you know? Give yourself time. Give yourself 12 months. Give yourself 18 months. And like I said, in a world of instant gratification, it's tough for people to hear that. I want it now. I want to be able to do it now. No. The good thing about something like this is it's a goal to strive for. And just go strive and go start now. What's stopping you like?
Brilliant words, David. Now, obviously, the show is called Why Do You Think You Could Do That? You're not just lifting stones, you're really lifting silence, history, identity. So, why do you think you could do that?
And again, I'll say this to you. Why not? You know, who's to say you can't? And as a man who's not educated in any of this stuff, I've managed to do all of this stuff through passion. Passion works. The ability to be able to do something with passion and with integrity is everything. Because if you got integrity, if you're doing it for the right reasons, for, you know, egalitarian reasons, and you're doing it because you love it, you can do anything you want to do. And don't listen to the doubters. There'll always be doubters. There'll always be haters, especially now online. You're available everywhere. You know, let the haters hate, man, and just go do your thing and don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Just go do it. And if you're passionate enough and you believe in it and you believe in yourself enough, you can do anything in this world. And I put myself forward as an example of that. You can do whatever the fuck you want. Just go and do it.
Now, David, we're coming towards the end of this amazing conversation. I like to finish off with the Brave Five. It's the rapid fire 5 questions. So don't expect one to lead on to the other. You ready?
Okay, go for it.
All right. What's the most unexpected lesson you've learned from lifting a stone?
That humility and patience and discipline can take you a long way.
A location you'll never forget.
Oh, Inishmore, Aran Islands.
Hmm. All right. Someone living or gone you'd love to lift a stone with.
Peter Martin from Scotland, the man who brought the culture back and kind of pretty much started everybody looking for the culture of stone lifting worldwide, I think, in the last 20 years.
A tradition from another culture that inspires your work.
Ooh. I've been so deep in my own culture over the past 5 years, I've kind of been blinkered. But I suppose this culture is worldwide. So I just say stone lifting in Scotland and Iceland and the Islands, pretty much everywhere.
All right. If you could carve one word into a stone, what would that be?
One word. Persevere.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. There you go. You got through the brave five. Well done. All right. I want to ask you, just before we close, what does bravery mean to you?
Bravery means bravery. What does bravery mean? Bravery means showing up. It means having the belief in yourself that when you have the doubters, and you will, like I've said already, you will have people who say you can't, you won't, you shouldn't. It's to push all that to the side and go do it anyway. And I've had to be brave over the past couple of years because I've been thrown into the limelight with this, Sam. I've become the de facto, I suppose, PR agent for this. I've had to stand in front of people who I've respected for my whole life and sell this almost and talk about it on TV, on documentaries, at lectures. And it's having that belief and knowing that you're doing something for the right reasons that will give you the bravery to do this, and not to do it to bring it back again, you know?
Culture doesn't die all at once. It fades quietly, generation by generation, until one day the stories stop being told and the stones stay down. But every once in a while, someone remembers. Someone bends down, grips the weight, and lifts not just a stone, but a people. David Keohan showed us that tradition doesn't belong in museums. It belongs in calloused hands on misty coasts, in village greens where children watch and elders remember. And maybe, just maybe, these stones aren't about proving anything. Maybe they're about remembering, putting our stories back together. Now, David, for anyone listening who wants to lift a stone, find their story, or be part of this heritage, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me, I suppose my handle has gotten kind of a bit of notoriety lately. I'm down as Indiana Stones on Instagram. So, but at this stage, if you just type in David Keohan or Irish stone lifting into Google, you'll get all the news and information and stuff, videos, documentaries, and books that are coming out on what I'm doing. So just type me into Google at this stage, David Keohan, Irish stone lifting, or give me a follow as Indiana Stones on Instagram.
Fantastic. And I tell you what, I need to see this documentary go worldwide because it is been such a fascinating story. And I'll make sure I put all of those links into the show notes. And if this conversation reconnected you to something deeper, share it, because when we lift the past, we carry the future. I'm Sam Penny, and this is Why Do You Think You Could Do That? Until next time, stay strong enough to care about where you come from.